The unseen emotional labor behind TV's most empathetic interviews rarely announces itself, yet it is always present, living in the pauses Craig Melvin allows, in the way his eyes soften when a guest's voice begins to waver, in the restraint it takes to let silence do the work instead of rushing to fill it. For decades, Craig has sat across from people carrying their worst moments into a brightly lit studio, parents who have lost children, survivors who are still learning how to breathe again, ordinary individuals thrust into extraordinary grief. And he has learned that the true work of interviewing begins long before the first question is asked. It begins in preparation, not just of facts, but of heart, in the quiet commitment to be fully present without turning another person's pain into performance. Early in his career, Craig believed empathy was instinctive, something you either had or didn't, but time has taught him that empathy is labor, and like all labor, it extracts a cost. Each interview leaves a residue, a faint ache that accumulates over the years, especially as he grows older and the stories start to resemble chapters from his own life. In his 60s, Craig no longer pretends that professionalism means detachment. Instead, he understands that the challenge is learning how to feel deeply without letting those feelings dismantle you piece by piece. After the cameras stop rolling and the studio empties, the questions linger. Did I ask enough? Did I listen well enough? Did I honor what they trusted me with? And those questions often follow him home. Lindsay Charniak sees this side of him more clearly than anyone. She recognizes the way he grows quieter after certain interviews, the way he stares a little too long at nothing, replaying moments only he will ever know. Having spent her own career in front of the camera, Lindsay understands that viewers often mistake calm delivery for emotional ease, not realizing how much effort it takes to remain steady while absorbing someone else's sorrow. At night, when the house is still, Craig might finally speak about a conversation that unsettled him, not because it was dramatic, but because it was painfully human. A father struggling to find purpose after loss, a widow trying to remember who she was before grief reshaped her identity. These are the interviews that cut closest, especially now, when Craig's own sense of mortality feels less theoretical and more intimate. When age has made him acutely aware of how fragile the scaffolding of everyday life can be. Lindsay listens without interrupting, offering not solutions but space, reminding him that bearing witness is both a privilege and a burden. Together they have learned that emotional labor doesn't end with the broadcast, it demands recovery, reflection, and sometimes intentional distance from the noise of the world. Craig has developed rituals that help him recalibrate, long walks without headlines in his ears, old music that reconnects him to simpler seasons, moments of laughter that feel almost defiant in their ordinariness. Yet even as he protects his inner life more carefully now, he refuses to harden because he knows that empathy is the reason people trust him in the first place. His audience, many of whom are navigating their own later chapters, senses this instinctively. They hear it in the patience of his questions, in the absence of judgment, in the way he allows guests to be incomplete, contradictory, and real. What they may not see is how Craig carries those conversations forward, how certain faces and stories resurface unexpectedly, reminding him that the job is not just about informing the public, but about honoring shared humanity. Lindsay often says that the most meaningful part of Craig's work happens in what he doesn't say, in the restraint that allows others to feel seen rather than examined. As the years pass, Craig measures success less by accolades and more by quieter metrics, whether a guest felt respected, whether the conversation offered dignity instead of spectacle, whether he himself remained open without being undone. Aging has not dulled his sensitivity, it has sharpened it, making each empathetic exchange both richer and heavier. And yet he continues, not out of habit, but out of conviction, believing that in a world increasingly rushed and reactive, there is profound value in slowing down long enough to truly listen. In the end, the unseen emotional labor behind Craig Melvin's most empathetic interviews is an act of service, one sustained by love, by partnership, and by a hard-earned understanding that compassion, though costly, is the most honest currency he has to offer, both to his audience and to himself.